Hi, so congrats if you have made it this far. I'm not a trained Buddhist teacher. I'm really just sharing these slides because I made them for my own benefit and I'm sharing Buddhist teachings with some friends. And I didn't want these slides to be wasted. So I have some difficulty in expressing Buddhist philosophy and or rather Buddhist psychology in a simple way. So I apologize for that. If you actually did watch the video and feel turned off by the very dense explanation I've tried to give. But anyway, I'll just continue for anyone who actually lands on this video. So right now, I've just finished with right effort and I'm going to right mindfulness and then right concentration, but I don't really like to use the word concentration because samadhi is a word that cannot be described by any English words. You would need a series of words to put them together to actually describe the experience of samadhi. And the Buddha gave many different metaphors, and it is an experience. It is an experiential thing. Yeah, life is an experience actually, and the Buddha did say that experience holds the truth. So it's not intellectual truth. Truth really lies in experience itself. So this free right effort or harmonious effort, harmonious mindfulness, wakefulness, and harmonious, or rather just samadhi, is the meditative part of the Noble Eightfold Path. So please do not misunderstand that right effort, right mindfulness, and so-called right concentration or samadhi is separate from right livelihood, right action, right speech, right thought, right understanding, because it actually runs throughout everything. As you already know, your mind is not a compartment where you can neatly separate things, into box A, box B, right? So box A and box B will eventually need to communicate. They will need to run into each other and you have to solve their problems, right? So there is no neat boxes in our mind. Our mind is open, there are no borders, and so this practice of understanding your own mind is really an art, right? There's no fixed rule. There's no, if you do A, you do B, you do C, then you reach D. It doesn't work like that. It's not a step-by-step thing. So just as this Noble Eightfold Path, which is normally taught right, from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but it's not a step-by-step thing. They're not linear, right? They run, they're non-linear. They can come out in any point of our life, anytime. And you do need certain amount of stillness, right? So I'll class this three as stillness. So you need certain effort to recognize certain conditions in the world that is affecting your speech, action, and your deeds, right? And you must be still enough to know the thought and the intention behind whatever you do, whatever you say, which will affect how your mind is at the end of the day, and it will affect how your mind is when you wake up in the morning as well. Okay, so first, before we go into right mindfulness, Samma Sati, right, in Pali, we will try to understand what is meditation. Yeah? So meditation is a way of experience that lead us to our true nature. So therefore, it's very funny, right? Meditation, people just sit and they think sitting is meditation. Well, it is part of meditation. It is not all of meditation. And if you are doing it as an activity, which we all have to in the beginning, it is a conditioned state. But after a while, when you have more and more right understanding and right thought, or harmonious understanding, harmonious thoughts, to what the Buddha is actually trying to lead us into certain experience towards the truth, and then you realize that actually meditation itself is non-conditioned, right? Non-conditioned means that you don't need a cushion, you don't need to purposely sit in a certain way and to consider that as meditation. Anyway, as my own definition of meditation, my own understanding of what the Buddha taught about meditation is very broad. Yeah. So meditation trains the mind and supports its maturity. So this is by Ajahn Chah from his one of his Dhamma talks, in which has been collected in this book called Unspeakable Peace. So I love Ajahn Chah. Looking at his photos bring me a lot of peace. So he said that the Buddha taught that training the mind involves knowing how to teach yourself and go against the grain of your desires. Yep, you have to use different skillful means to teach your mind because it constantly gets caught into moods of depression and elation. This is the nature of the unenlightened mind. It's just like a child. So basically, when we see something we like, we get excited, or our heart grows into this fondness and this desire, right? So, and if we don't get what we want, then it sinks into this depression or this sense of emptiness, or not being able to feel contentment. So the funny thing is, even though we get what we want, after a while the mind still sinks into, when I say the mind, it includes the not just the intellect, it's also the heart. Yeah, so the heart is the feeling mind, and the head, wherever the crown area, is the thinking mind, and they work hand in hand. So this is what I define as a mind, mind. Yeah. Anyway, so of course mind is bigger than the body, is expandable. Anyway, let me get back to that. So yeah, so even if we have a relationship with someone we like, we get excited about, we desire for years, for many of us, that relationship can become dull after a while, and we may become discontented and feel empty after a while, still feel lonely. Of course, there are some people who actually are lucky and they meet somebody who actually pairs with them really well. They really have a very good working relationship, even in the romantic sense. But for the majority of us, we sink into this discontentment, this, like, that person don't understand me anymore, right? And then even if you get what you want, after a while impermanence sets in and you're just not happy anymore. So as a disciple of the Buddha, or somebody who practices what the Buddha taught, we have to be awake in that sense to the nature of our heart, what is drawn by, and what it feels ungrateful for, what it's unhappy about, and how it becomes empty and then goes into depression. So all of this requires this wakefulness in knowing. So this wakefulness is really a combination of the heart and the intellect. Okay, the intellect has to be stilled somehow. In our days, in our modern time, the intellect just keeps running. There's no space around this thinking. We're just caught up by this thinking that we have become very insensitive to where our heart is going out into the world. So in order to do this training, your mind has to be relatively quiet to know the nature of your heart and your desires, when it's elated and when it feels down. And for many of us who have no emotional maturity, which means to be aware of this nature of your own heart, mind, right? We're actually like children, like behaving like children, and always being in this state of mild discontentment. Even if it's not very high discontentment, there's this mild discontentment, about not having what I want, not getting what I want. Actually, what separates us from children is that we're just not throwing that kind of tantrums yet, right? Yeah. And when we dream up of something, we just talk about it and hang on to that desire. And when that future doesn't come, then it's depression. So our life become very, very unstable in that sense. Our emotional life becomes unstable because experience itself is actually emotional. If you think about it, thinking brings about an emotional experience. But just pure intellectual thinking and keeping your heart out of it is not really an experience. It's just a concept that you believe in, right? So there's a difference. So there are two types of meditation practice in our world. One of it is shamatha. Shamatha is really calming the mind, right? This is where the mind keeps resting on one object to develop calm, such as God in different traditions, the Christian tradition, the Muslim tradition, the Jewish tradition. Yeah, so in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, one also is being taught to rest your mind on a deva or on a bodhisattva being, which is the 10 recollections the Buddha taught, right? So you can recollect the Dhamma, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, devas. You can recollect your deeds, the good deeds you've done, generosity. You can recollect death and dying. So people think it's very morbid. Actually, no. When you recollect that you can die any moment and even imagine it, it's actually a very fruitful practice. Yeah. So you can recollect your breath. And yeah, so there's total 10 recollections. So now I only remember 8. There's 2 more. Okay, so anyway, so every religion does this. Okay, it's not special to Buddhism. Now, what is special to Buddhism is actually vipassana, insight. So this is taught by the Buddha. So Buddhists rest the mind with samatha so that this quiet or relatively quiet mind, spacious mind, has an awareness that can investigate the nature of phenomenon. Okay, what nature of phenomenon means the experiences that arise in our mind by contact through the sixth sense bases. If you have seen my other videos or attended other Buddhist classes, yeah. So this leads to an insight about our experience, which is informed by our contact with six sense bases and its objects. So we're actually investigating not just the object, we're investigating our contact and the reaction that arise from our contact with objects. And through investigation with a relatively quiet mind, it leads to an insight. Actually, not an insight, but several insights, which are called realizations, which loosen your mind from dependency on needing sense-based contact to feel that you are alive. So we live our life thinking that we're only alive because there's sense-based contact. And if there are no sense-based contact, we believe we are dead. Okay, so yes, that is true on a very surface level, but if you go deeper and understand the nature of phenomenon, right, you go deeper to understand, and then you may come to this realization that there is no life and there is no death, right, which is a very deep realization. So samadhi, I think I read somewhere, samadhi is a term that was invented by the Buddha. Okay, so based on the teachings of the Buddha, from my understanding and some reading, which I can't remember where I read, okay, this is a combination of a calm, restful mind, shamatha, and investigative wisdom, vipassana. So samadhi seems to be a term coined by the Buddha to combine shamatha and vipassana. Yeah. So I can't truly say that vipassana, investigation into the nature of phenomenon to lead to the truth of what you really are, I cannot say that it is entirely absent from the Bible or the Quran. However, when you compare to these two other prominent traditions, the Buddhist text explaining insights, wisdom, is a lot more in depth and there's a lot more metaphors and stories. So really kudos to the disciples of the Buddha that have kept his teachings intact for the benefit of later generations like ourselves. Okay, and yeah, so even though shamatha can lead you to certain states of certain bliss, but without vipassana, without wisdom, you will be caught up by these blissful states of shamatha, just like even when you're not meditating, the weather is very hot, you see your favorite ice cream and you eat it and you feel bliss, and then you're stuck in that. Is the same thing. Okay, even though you're sitting in meditation, close your eyes, watching the breath, getting that bliss, right? And you have no realization of that difference of that bliss, no realization of that bliss, how it comes about through releasing the mind. Okay, if you have no wisdom about that, then the bliss you attain here will be no different from the bliss eating an ice cream in a very hot weather. Okay, sorry if I sound very convoluted. You can maybe rewind some and listen again. Okay, so two different kind of bliss. If there's no understanding how this bliss comes about through your sitting, by knowing your mind, there is no wisdom, then that kind of bliss is not different from the mundane bliss. Okay, so I just want to bring out this Bible saying. The first half of Psalms 46:10 is a popular verse used to encourage believers to be still and silent before the Lord. This interpretation promotes a healthy rest in the presence of the Lord. Okay, be still and know that I am God. So this is very interesting, right? Be still and know that I am God. But yet many people who have religions that still pray to someone else as God. So not trying to be blasphemous here, but I feel very drawn to this saying, be still and know that I'm God. Yeah. So it only makes sense, as Gandhi said, and even the Buddha in this TV series, it makes no sense for God to be outside of you. If God is the creator of all, then he must or she must be inside you. Therefore, be still and know that I'm God, and not go run after other gods, or run after a being who has miraculous powers and give your power away to that being and call them God. Even if you don't call them God, you may have this tendency to worship them without realizing it. Okay, so yeah, so I just want to share this with you, because although I'm a really true blue Buddhist practitioner and I love the Buddha, I also love Jesus, and I feel that some of his teachings have been very badly misinterpreted, and it is such a shame, because I also love Christ and I believe he has left behind very wise sayings as well. So I'm just taking some excerpts from some teachers whom I resonate with. They may not resonate with you. All of us have different teachers, and Sayadaw Tejaniya is one I resonate. Although I have never met him, I've never gone on his retreats, but the things he says, yeah, resonates with me. And it's not necessary to actually go for a retreat of a teacher to consider that teacher your teacher, because I have got many teachers from YouTube. I may have met them like Ajahn Sumedho, but I listen to most of his talks online. I've never attended his retreats, but I consider him my teacher. Another one is Thich Nhat Hanh, who has passed away. His books affected me a lot. I learned so much. I considered him my first Buddhist teacher, but he had passed away. I've never seen him. Okay, so anyway, let's not digress. So what is meditation? He said, it's not the posture that's meditating, it's your mind. So it is very obvious here. Meditation does not mean that you have to sit on a cushion for 2-3 hours. Okay, It's not that. As long as you're aware of your mind, that's meditation. So he said, that's how I understand meditation. If while sitting, you're dreaming up things the mind can feel greedy about or feel aversion about, I don't call that meditation. So you see, meditation is as long as you're aware of your mind in all parts of your life, whatever you're doing, that is meditation. This is another of my favorite teachers. I have not met him. I've not gone for his retreat, but again, his book has taught me a lot, and his father's books, incredible, The Rainbow Painting, which is really one of my most top of the list Buddhist books out there. So he said, awareness is the essence of meditation. See, awareness is what? Awareness which comes from your mind, heart mind, right? The heart and the mind that knows what's going on is the essence of meditation. Meditation helps us see that we are already whole and complete. So he's saying the purpose of meditation is to help us see our real nature, that we're already whole and complete. We're not something separate from another. We're not separate from the mountain. We're not separate from the sea. We're not separate from our enemies. We're not separate from our loved ones. We're actually all whole and complete. Right? It's not good enough to intellectually believe that. You actually have to realize it for it to be a very deep understanding. And therefore, this deep understanding brings about release. And that's why meditation and the right practice of what the Buddha taught actually brings you happiness and relaxation. Yeah? Okay, so it's not what the Buddha taught is not for us to hang on to his teaching and use it to judge others. Okay, so he said it is a practical tool that enables us to get in touch with our true nature. Okay, so consciousness is closely related to awareness. So consciousness usually in the Buddhist text means, when there's contact with a sense-based object, okay, even thinking, right? It may not be a bodily contact with a chair. It could just be contact with thoughts, concepts, thinking. We call that consciousness. So it's a grosser form of awareness. But are they separate? No, they're not separate. They're the same. Just that it's like peeling an onion. Okay, so consciousness is on the outer skin of the onion. Awareness is on the deeper parts of the onion. But they're not separate. So meditation is about being aware, conscious, right? So some teachers like to interchange the word consciousness with awareness. Like my like Ajahn Sumedho, whom I really love his talks, he uses consciousness more than awareness. But actually, as I mentioned earlier, they're not separate. So being conscious is not being self-conscious, right? So this is by another favorite lay teacher of mine, David R. Hawkins. I've never met him. He has passed away. I love his books. So being conscious is not being self-conscious, he said. Oh, sorry, this is Chongyang Trungpa Rinpoche, right? We could say that there are different kinds of self-consciousness. One idea is that self-consciousness has to do with feeling guilty, feeling hurt, feeling pain. But that is not the kind of self-consciousness we are talking about. So this kind of consciousness, right, is not really awareness, because awareness is more expanded. It's expanded to be able to be aware of the 5 aggregates. So you can say the 5 aggregates have shrunk, and awareness has become bigger, consciousness is bigger, and you can observe in those 5 aggregates, within awareness. So, but if you are self-conscious, that is not the kind of awareness we're talking about. This self-consciousness, like, I'm feeling hurt, all right, I'm very sensitive to myself. This person says something, I'm not comfortable, how can this person say this? I'm a very sensitive person, right? This is very self-conscious. This kind of self-consciousness does not have the 5 aggregates within the wide awareness. It is actually absorbed, and rather this self-consciousness is being absorbed by the 5 aggregates. Okay, so this one of self-consciousness, 5 aggregates is very big still, and you're still being very focused on the 5 aggregates and not really being aware of them. Okay, so this is self-consciousness. Okay, so this slide is saying that we misunderstand what consciousness is, right? By thinking that it is self-consciousness. Otherwise, we rather be unconscious, because being too focused, being absorbed by the five aggregates, moment to moment, can be very stressful. So when we're very stressed, then we rather be unconscious. So that's what Dr. David R. Hawkins say in Letting Go. People are desperate to stay unconscious. We observe how often people flick on the TV set the moment they enter a room. So are they escaping from that? Escaping from a whole day of thinking, and it's very tiring, right? And I myself understand that, because I go into the office and there could be a lot of work. So there's a lot of contact of the mind with concepts, thinking, and it feels overloaded. So it comes back, what does it want to do? It wants to be unconscious. Okay, so this is not totally wrong. Yes, you need to take a break from that constant thinking, right? But instead of meditation, we rather flip on Netflix to actually just zone out, right? The word is zone out. Not really being with the show, but watching the show. Or sometimes we're actually really watching the show and being very absorbed by the show, and again the mind has contacted concepts and he has never really taken a break. So this is a very unconscious break, right? Then he said, we like to walk around in a dreamlike state, constantly being programmed by the data poured into us, right? By our surrounding data, sense contact. People are terrified of facing themselves. It's true. So you see, meditation is really an art of facing ourselves, facing the parts we really dislike. So a lot of us think that we are great people because we have not really done anything really mean, which may be true, right? I used to think that, oh, I'm a nice person until I did meditation, and I realized actually I'm not that great. And there are a lot of things which I need to, well, usually people say improve on. Yes, but really, before you can improve on them, you got to accept it in yourself, right? That maybe I'm not so kind, maybe I'm quite judgmental, so I admit to that. And maybe I'm not as open as I think I am into accepting everybody, but I'm trying. I'm not trying that hard like before, which is a good thing, I think. But when things become difficult again, my sense of judgment may come out again, to not be accepting of others sometimes. By when somebody say A, I have to say B, right? And I realized that I was like, oops, why can't I just listen to what that person has to say about A and accept it and just agree, right? There's no point going out to argue with everyone about their values, because it's their karma. And if they are not ready to face their karma or to seek solutions to their karma, I think for me, I would like to at least accept them for who they are, and to still show love and compassion. And I would like to say that I'm not successful in that aspect yet, but it's something that I'm aware of. Okay, so anyway, so sometimes instead of self-reflection and doing this kind of thing, we rather go out partying, involving ourselves in frantic activities. I would like to say frantic activities also involves volunteering. I'm not saying volunteering is wrong. It's good. It should go hand in hand with meditation. But sometimes, we do these things as a way to escape, or going from retreat to retreat. Okay, if we are not looking at our minds properly during retreats, it's also a form of escape. So it's very subtle. You really have to know yourself. Okay. So wrong intentions for meditation. So this Tibetan teacher who has passed away, Chongkyen Trungpa, so he's quite a controversial teacher. It's not for everyone. I wasn't uncomfortable with him when I first started. Again, he's passed away. I just read his book, but reading his book, actually I think he's a very deep teacher. But his behavior is something you really need to read and understand. So I'm not anyone to say anything. But anyway, he said, ego is furiously opposing unconditional awareness, meaning the ego mind always want to grab, want to command, want to judge, want to be very involved. It cannot let go, and so it cannot let go of itself to face unconditional awareness. Okay, and its key strategy against meditation's assault is spiritual materialism. This is what I was trying to say earlier, right? We say, okay, maybe I don't meditate, but I can volunteer at temple a lot. I can do this, I can do that, right? I can accumulate a lot of charms. I can do a lot of chanting. I can accumulate a lot of amulets, right? I can just sit and sit. Wow, very powerful. Sit 3 hours. Then you come out from sitting. Yes, I have done 3 hours of sitting. I am this is a way of, this is sort of like spiritual materialism, trying to gain something out of these spiritual practices. Okay. This is the attempt to make use of spiritual teachings for our own preconceived purposes. Okay. Again, like, right, then we approach spirituality not with letting go, not with letting go to love, to understand, to reflect, but rather to gain, to get, right, to attain, to have results. Okay, that's spiritual materialism. We would like to live longer, be healthier, stronger, more highly competent, more magnetic, more powerful, more highly admired, richer, more and more invulnerable. These are the intentions we have for meditation. We want to meditate for a healthier lifestyle, but the Buddha has really said, no matter what you do, you cannot escape aging, sickness, or death, even with meditation. Okay? So what better vehicle toward these ends than profoundest ancient wisdom and techniques of mind training honed by centuries of application? If meditation can be tied to ambition, including the ambition to always be well and not fall sick, then the heart of its power of liberation is gone. You see, we meditate to liberate the mind from its misunderstanding. This is the true purpose of meditation. In order to liberate your mind from misunderstanding, you have to look at yourself, accept every bit of yourself which you dislike, okay? And be a good friend to yourself before you can help others or to truly befriend them. Okay, so that's the end of that very long talk. Sorry, it's 32 minutes. So hope you gain some learning. If not, maybe that talk could help you fall asleep. All right, so that's all. Thank you very much.